Hello. My name is David and I'm from a small city in Michigan off the coast of Lake Michigan that is mostly known for its high crime rate and high school sports teams. In this post I'm going to recount a meeting my family, friends, and I had when I was 18. The year was 2015. I had just graduated high school and I was working my first job. I resided in a trailer park that was located just off the beach. In between the beach and my trailer park was a small forest, and in that forest was a sand factory that stored sand to sell. I had 3 close friends that lived in the neighborhood around the trailer park: Ryan, Brett, and Bob. My stepdad worked as a cab driver, and I worked as a burger flipper, which left my mother at home alone most days. Our trailer was located right at the back of the park and only the trees separated our trailer from the sand factory field. So the trailer we lived in was old and beat up. It had siding missing underneath it, leaving it open for any animals that could possibly wander underneath. The first time hearing this thing, it sounded as if 2 cats were chasing each other full speed underneath our trailer. We could feel it from one end to the other. This was in the early days of June and we didn't think nothing of it, being that we lived in a trailer park that was infested with stray cats. Sometime in the middle of the month a neighbor approached my mom and advised her to get our siding fixed as she had seen an abnormally large raccoon exit from underneath our trailer in the early morning hours. Now my mom, being left alone every night, began to hear noises in the trees right behind our house. She described these noises as a monkey screaming at the top of its lungs as loud as it could. She would try to explain what was going on to me when I got out of work every night, but I didn't think much of it. Until one day I heard the noises too. Neighbors started to complain their pets were coming up missing. And things started to get kind of creepy. That's when my mom met Luigi. Luigi was a large black man that stayed with his mom in the trailer park. I think my mom was standing outside one night smoking some weed when he walked by and they struck up a casual conversation. Then he started in on his personal experience without any prior knowledge to my mom's experience. One night he was coming home and it was late. He seen a creature at the end of his road which he believed was a dog. This had to be at least 50 yards from him. It began to approach him. He didn't pay it no mind, that is until it stood up. He described this creature as an all-white beast that resembled a monkey, with pitch-black pupils that stared in his soul. It began to run at him. He ran into his home as fast as he could, and before he could shut the door this creature shoved his hand in the door, blocking it from closing. Luigi is at least 6'6", 250 pounds, and this man was screaming for his mother. When this thing finally left his home, it stole the lid off of his garbage can. This prompted my mother to figure out what the hell this creature was. It scared the shit out of her, and intrigued her at the very same time. It haunted her thoughts. Still to this day it does. Her beliefs as to why this creature exists and what it is haunt her as well. It traumatized her. If I wasn't so young and naive, it probably would do the same to me. I don't live too far from where I used to live, and I still find myself shutting my doors on certain summer nights when I hear things outside that don't sound too promising. So following her, hearing Luigi's story and continuing to hear the creatures scream in the evening hours, My mom began to ask around. Surprisingly, not very many of the residents had seen or heard anything, which is crazy because a lot of our neighbors had spent a lot of time outside. One night my friends Brett, Ryan, Bob, and I were hanging out at my house when we heard it screaming. It was already pretty dark out, but this prompted all of us, my mom included, to investigate. We first walked around the trailer park. We ended up meeting one of the residents who accompanied us out of pure interest that it was the chupacabra, haha. We didn't find any evidence of the creature in the trailer park, so we decided to cross into the woods and venture into the sand lot next to the park. None of us had ever went in there before. It was trespassing. So the trailer park sat on a four-way corner, and on one side towards Lake Michigan was the sand lot, and the other side of the park was the factory that ran the sand lot. The sand lot was full of big sand hills that were at least 20 feet tall, and a pond separated the lot from the factory. There was a trail from the entrance of the lot that curves around the hills and off into a wooded area. And in between these hills were patches of grass that were at least 4 to 5 feet tall. That night we went in there. Our search for this creature was unsuccessful. That resident we had befriended abandoned us once he had learned of our plans to trespass, so it was just the 5 of us. We were armed with a flashlight and a BB gun. We were too stupid to realize if we had an encounter we probably didn't stand a chance. We walked around on the trail for a little bit, thinking every noise and movement was the creature, and we ventured maybe 20 feet into the dark woods before we decided to turn around because we were all too chicken shit to continue going further. The crazy thing is that the sand lot was separated by about a mile-long stretch of woods that lead up to the beach, and me and my buddies would camp in these woods at the beach a ton this summer. And on our walks back every morning I would find myself staring into these woods, scanning them for any sign of the creature, all while feeling like I was being watched. About a week after our first search, my 3 friends and I found ourselves talking about the creature. Ryan thought the whole thing was BS. He thought my mom was insane. So we decided to venture into the sand lot once again, this time to prove him wrong. We armed ourselves with knives and the BB gun and a flashlight. We entered the lot just next to the entrance this time. I had flip-flops on and decided to take them off at the entrance and leave them where we entered, hidden in the woods. This time around we spent searching harder. We had grew more ballsy and we really wanted to see this thing. We ventured into the dark trail deeper, and eventually we found ourselves on the beach of the pond that separated the lot from the factory. It was covered in these weird footprints that had 3 long toes in the front and 1 long toe in the back. There were 2 sizes, one was about 5 to 6 inches and the other was about 2 to 3 inches. The whole beach was covered in them. We were too intrigued with these prints to realize that the security at the factory had spotted us trespassing. We decided to split up, me and Bob and Ryan and Brett. We were on one side of a giant sand hill and they were on the other side. Little did any of us know, the creature was on top of the very hill that separated our small group. We heard it shriek. It was a blood-curdling cry. Before we could even react, it had launched itself to the ground. It stood there dead in the middle of the pass, its eyes pitch black, its body covered in white fur, It towered over us. It had to have been at least 7 feet tall, with noticeable muscle definition, arms that slunk down to its knees and long ears that resembled Momo from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Within seconds it launched itself into the trees on the other side of the path. Bob and I didn't even have a moment to absorb what we just saw. I know we were both trembling in fear. As soon as that thing had gotten in the trees, a big light hit those same woods, and the sound of talking and a running engine became clearer. We both realized it was the security guards from the factory investigating the trespassers on their property. We ran for the grass that stood 5 feet tall and laid on the ground face first. We could feel them shine their big light on us for what felt like 10 years. When the sound of the engine finally drifted away, we hightailed it out of there. I was barefoot, running as fast I could through thorns and prickers. I didn't even stop to grab my sandals. I'm not entirely sure what we did afterwards. I'm not sure whose house we went to or what we talked about. What I do know is that we never attempted to search for that thing again, and the agonizing screams from it were never again heard by any of us. I only lived in that park for a few more weeks before I moved. For those reading this thinking it's a creative fictional story about a group of friends trying to fight a scary monster, it's not. This is a recounting of a meeting with an ungodly creature, and the reason I'm sharing this is because besides Bob, Luigi, and myself, I don't know anybody that's seen it. I don't know what it's capable of. I don't know why it exists, and I'm not even sure if it's still alive or not. So I'm posting this ultimately in search of answers, whether it be similar encounters, pictures, videos or stories. If anybody has ever heard those angry, almost painful screams that no human could mimic, please tell me your story.